Down the field, Hollywood!
Let me think about that one.
77 yards! Whoa! Who is this kid?
I like that. You know what that sounds like to me?
Take off.
Freedom. I hear a helicopter. I don't hear the blades, I hear freedom. All right, we ready?
Yep.
All right, guys, welcome to the War Machine. We're not going to do all of our podcasts in the War Machine, but it is allowing me to be able to go and spend some money on something that I've always wanted to do because technically it's work related. But honestly, I want to tell you guys that I bought this podcast, this mobile podcast studio, to be able to bring you the most amazing content ever, but that would be a lie because I've always wanted this and I found a way to do something that was on my life to-do list and also impact people doing it at the same time. So for our very first podcast in the War Machine, I'm going to have somebody on here that's sitting across from me right now that is at this very moment the most impactful and influential person that I have in my life. He's been a guy that has continually poured his wisdom and his talents and his time and his life lessons into my life, into my marriage, into my family. And I would be remiss if he wasn't the first person that was in the War Machine with me, but he's probably going to regret that because as we sit in the War Machine right now, it has no AC, it has no electrical in the back, and it's perfectly imperfect. And I was going to delay the start of this podcast until everything was perfect, but honestly, that's how I've lived my entire life is the perfectionist thing. And it's worked really well for me in a lot of different facets in my life, but it's a stretch for me and it's hard for me to just kind of get outside of what I want to do and to be more for other people. And that's what I'm doing in this podcast. That's why I'm doing this podcast right now versus waiting 3 weeks until everything is perfect in here, because I understand this podcast is not about me. It's about the people that are listening to it, listening to the podcast and watching it on YouTube. And if you guys did not see it on YouTube, I went to Ash's house and picked him up earlier and we went to go do his favorite hobby. So before I tell you any more about that, guys, I want to introduce you to a guy that I absolutely love with every piece of my heart, Ash Ghandehari.
Well, thanks for having me here, Steve. Appreciate it. It's been a great day so far. And I chose cycling, and it's not, I didn't have my race bike ready for us to go out with. The race bike, I was going to have my tri-bike and we are going to go out with that. But what I love about cycling is, we talked about the helicopter going by a little earlier and how that represents freedom to you. Cycling represents freedom to me.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I know some of the people that are watching or listening to the podcast right now don't know what we did earlier. So Ash, just to give you a very brief background on him, and we're going to get into more of his backstory and more of his story later, but Ash used to be an uber competitive Ironman in addition to a ton of, corporate world achievements and et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to get into all that stuff. But I went to his house and I said, take me to do your favorite hobby. And so typically he'd be on a road bike, because he's an Ironman guy, but I'm 242 pounds and he's a very sleek 172.
No, 153 right now. But when I was an athlete, I was around 142, 155.
In my eyes, you're bigger than life.
Thank you. You just teed me up on that one, huh? That's great.
But so
and then you put me in the sandbox at the end.
Yeah, I did put you in the sandbox. So we went out and got electric beach cruisers because him and I have both lived our life very, very similar, just like achieve. And I've attached a lot of my self-worth to my achievements. Mm-hmm. And since building a relationship with you, man, the entire world has opened up to me. I feel like I have a brand new marriage. I feel like I have brand new relationships with my kids. And it's because you cared enough about me to mentor me through a program called Hardcore Leadership. And this War Machine and this podcast is going to be able to give me the platform to connect with people, man. So I am so freaking thankful for the fact that you were born and the fact that you were in the place that you were in when you and I connected, and the fact that you went to the church that I already went to, and you you feel the same way about being a parent that I do and a husband that I do, and I watched how you operated in your life, and I just admired you so much. And you didn't chase me down. You're like, hey man, you know, like there's just something small missing in your life, and I'd love to help you uncover it, because it's not anything that you don't have. Yeah. It's something that's already inside you, and I can see that, and I want to help you open it up. And then honestly, like the last 3 months of my life have been a miracle every single day, because I'm like happy for real for the first time.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for the acknowledgement. And you know, you get to give yourself a lot of credit for that, simply because, you know, we were talking about the Miracle on Ice story earlier, and you know what Herb was doing is looking for people that are open to bring the best method at the time for coaching them into winning the Olympic gold medalist. So, and my experience with you has just been open to the process, and that's the number one thing. If anyone's listening and or watching and is looking to achieve excellence in life or create whatever dream or miracle that's in them, what I see is if you're just willing to be open enough to see what's working, what's not working, looking at where there's opportunities for you, then the dream life becomes reality.
So tell people that are watching and listening, because we kind of skipped over what hardcore leadership was.
Yeah.
And I want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about what hardcore leadership is, and like what the process is, what the work is, and then I want you to take people through the story of where you were and how you ended up being such a big part of my life through the platform of hardcore leadership training.
Yeah, wow, that's a story. So Hardcore Leadership is a company that my wife owns, and the leadership aspect of the hardcore leadership aspect of the hardcore business is an organization that she and I both have a lot of passion for and drive for, because 2.5 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, my life looked very
Time
different.
flies when you're dead,
dude. When you're having fun and enjoying life, time does fly. Yeah, about 4.5 years ago, my life looked really different. You know, I was in the corporate world. I was in the top 2% income earners in the world. I worked with a massive organization. That organization that we supported ended up buying the company that I was working with for $690 million, which was the number one performing.
Say that again?
$690 million was the company that we ended up selling. I was part of that transaction to the number one performing stock in the New York Stock Exchange over 15 years. $5 billion company with $20 billion market cap. And I found myself in the negotiation table while I was going through a training that completely changed my life and the trajectory of my life. And that training is the leadership training that now my wife and I have a piece of, and we're committed to serving professional athletes, musicians, aspiring entrepreneurs to really unlock their best life that's available to them. And that could look in a lot of different ways. For some people, it's about creating the impact and really growing the business. And for some people that are overachievers, that are workaholics, it may look completely different. It may be honing in on just knowing that it's not about the achievements in just corporate world and business world. It's about living your best life, and whatever that looks like for you. So I found myself in this phase of where I felt like I was happy, but my wife and having a son completely shifted that. I was in a position where I was able to take as much time as I needed off to do what I wanted to do, which was doing Ironmans all over the world, and ultimately set a goal to get the World Championship. And I ended up getting there with my son just about a year old. So that was cool. I got to achieve that. And yet I found myself still not really experiencing complete joy. Like I would hit goals, I would create goals, I would hit them again, I would hit achievements, even from graduating from Pepperdine, envisioning myself being in a boardroom of a Fortune 500 company and negotiating a deal, which I had found myself in April 1st of 2016. And I delayed that deal from happening until April 10th, when I actually chose to go to the meeting and tell them I'm not moving forward. And getting an incredible woman in my life, having a son, all these things were happening. And the moment I had my son, of course, I felt what joy really felt like, but it was just like that brief moment. Not that I wasn't joyful of having my son, but I was. It's just that brief moment. I was like, oh, wow, that's what it feels to love someone beyond imagination.
Like instantly.
Instantly. Like
And it's so crazy you're saying this because my baby brother, like literally right now, I haven't checked my phone, but I know any minute now I'm going to get a text message, which is going to be a picture of my niece or nephew. And it's just like I'm overjoyed that my little baby brother, 26 years old, is going to be able to experience what I've already done 5 times, and every single time is just as magical as the first time. To see like the miracle of childbirth, which sounds like, if anybody's listening or watching right now that haven't experienced it, this is going to sound douchey, but it really is the greatest experience and the greatest joy that you will ever see, because there's never going to be another opportunity for you to see another human, especially a human that you were involved in creating, take their first breath.
Yeah.
It would never happen again.
No, it's just the most magnificent thing that any father, mother will ever experience. And so for me, that was a moment I was like, wow, there's this feeling that I'm not tuned into. So something's missing. Something's missing. And so I got to sense that. And my wife and I just got married a year ago, roughly, April, a year ago. But we were in a relationship for 4.5 years as of now. And our son is 3.5 years old. So that should give you a clue as to what we experienced through that process. Why was I holding back? I mean, I had the money. I mean, I had bought it, and I thought, oh, I'll have joy when I buy my multi-million-dollar home, like a block from the ocean.
I'll be happy when.
Yeah, and so I had bought my home. I had a home. I lived in Orange County at the time on the beach community, and my wife lived in San Diego in a beach community. I was reluctant to make the move, even as, I literally, like 2 weeks before my son was born, our doula, we hired a doula through the process, said, Ash, you really need to be home now, because, and I would come up with business excuses, all these reasons that I'm so important that I got to do these other things, that I can't be present to the woman that's going to give birth to my son.
When did that change for you, and why?
So I knew that I was not going to be, I wanted to create a family for my son to experience. I knew that was something that was non-negotiable for me in life. And I knew that I wanted to have a family. And in fact, the moment I met my wife, I was driving home and I said, that's the woman I want to marry. But yet something was holding me back from that marriage. So I was open enough to kind of understand this dialogue that something is missing. Like the
self-awareness. Of noticing there was an ingredient
that's not working.
To happy that either wasn't there or wasn't being administered into your life correctly.
Totally. Something that was missing. It just wasn't working. And so my wife, and I thank God that my wife was open enough, aware enough, transformed enough in her mind that she was able to really say, like, create the opportunity for me to see that within myself. Because if she would have pushed in a different way, today wouldn't have become a reality. So she had this experience years earlier, and so she was able to just say, you know what, I know that I need to create an opportunity for you to step into your full potential.
Right.
And we got to a point where she basically gave me an ultimatum, in a sense. She said, you either get to really look at why you're not committed enough to completely let go of that life to join our family.
When she says you need to look at,
was
that encouraging you to do the same work that because she did this hardcore leadership work, which was a different name.
Yeah.
But there's different forms of it. So I'm just trying to paint the picture real clear for the people there. When she said that, was she encouraging you to go through the same work that she went through to be able to gain the same clarity?
Yeah. So she said there's and some of your viewers may have heard of, there are other programs out there that do some of the similar
Let's assume
training.
that they haven't, because I had never heard of the work that I went through. I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
So rattle off a couple of the other people.
Yeah, so there are other trainings that are more contextual based, meaning they support you in really looking at how you react to life as it occurs to you. So let's say, for example, someone flips me up on the road. Am I the person to go F you too? Am I the type to wave him or engage in it in a different way? Or am I the type to ignore it and just be like a little mouse? So it teaches you, and these are in a trainings called rackets that we live with. And with rackets, there is a reward in it, and there's also a cost associated to it. Meaning, you're either getting a reward of avoiding, which doesn't allow you to confront, or you're getting a reward of like feeling superior when you do take it on. And there's a cost associated to that, and that cost could be the relationship. That cost can be moving something forward. So there are other trainings like Landmark that address some of the same thing contextually. And I did that training first, and I had an opening, and the opening was, for me, is since a very young age, I felt as an outsider because I immigrated. I was a US citizen who lived in Iran for 12 years, from 1 year old to 12 years old. And when I moved to the US, I didn't speak a word of English. And most people assumed I was Islam, and I have nothing against Islam or anyone, but I wasn't. And so I found myself often
So you get stereotyped that a certain type of way.
I was stereotyped quite a bit. I mean, I moved here right after the Iran hostage crisis.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it was a.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. So I moved here right after Iran hostage crisis, and I got in a few fights, and I proved myself in a sense so that people just stay away from me. And so I found myself to become an outsider at a very early age. And so the conversation in my head has always been protect myself, and I'll prove it to you. So that's one thing I discovered early on in this experience, is that I've been living in a way that's really been working for me. I've created significant success, yet it's also created a lot of isolation for me. And the isolation is even I was afraid to even trust this woman and move from one area to another because I was afraid that I would lose my identity of success and corporate success by having to shift to a new location, maybe not holding on to the job. And I was afraid of like what I had at risk, like my house. And so a lot of those conversations were going on in my head, and I wasn't even aware of it.
What does it look like when you say my operating system? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said part of who you became because of the stereotypes and the different things that you had experienced as a kid. You were like, all right, screw you, I'm going to prove it. Draw me an example of what that looked like in your life.
Well, at 12 years old, it looked like, being last to be picked for team handball and then ultimately not being picked. And I got in a fight. I chased 3 kids around the whole school ground. And the last one I went to, it's crazy, I'd forgotten this whole story until a moment that just all came back to me, rushed back to me. And I went to take a punch at someone, and they moved, and I hit the wall and had, scrapes all over my arm, and it was bleeding everywhere. And I could see people, the teachers asking me what happened. I was isolated in this corner. I still remember exactly the location. And I was looking at my bloody hand, my shirt, and I was just remember crying. And so that's what it looked like at 12 years old for me. That's exactly what happened. And so how does that play out for me in life? Anytime there's a moment where I feel, there are moments that I make up stories where I'm not getting picked again.
As an adult, you make up those stories.
Yeah, as an adult, there's moments that I go, oh my gosh, I'm different, and I'm not getting picked again. And so what results out of that is I cause separation, and I'll prove it to you. The prove it to you is great because I was able to become a multimillionaire without owning my own business. I was a corporate person and ended up creating
like a mercenary for hire.
Yeah, a great net worth. And what it looked like is doing Ironmans all over the world, like trying to prove myself that I'm greater or better athlete or bigger, and have a superiority complex with it almost.
So your self-worth
was on achievements.
So everything, it's so crazy because in my first podcast, which I did solo, and I knew a lot of these things that I'm asking Ash about right now, and I'm kind of leading him into sharing them, some of them, but some of the stuff he's sharing right now, I'm hearing for the first time, and I knew that this was going to happen, but this is literally like why I'm doing the podcast, is I want to finally paint the real picture of myself. Actually, I don't even want to paint the real picture. I want to hold up a mirror, and I want this podcast to be the mirror that shows everybody who I really am. Without hiding behind, the athletic achievements, college All-American or Super Bowl champion or, NFL records or the money that I was blessed enough to generate with my talents or just any of the things that I would hang my ego on.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, like I always had low self-esteem regarding my body image. And so I spent thousands upon thousands of hours in the gym when nobody's around. And it wasn't to get the fulfillment from myself, from the hard work that I was doing, which is the story I was telling myself. But really, I had such low opinion of myself and like who I was and how much that I was like quote unquote worth, that I thought having big muscles and being like a mighty person, like a big person, a strong person with all these different achievements and a nice suit and a nice watch and a nice car and all those other things, I thought that, you know, when I got those things, that I would be happy, or I would be fulfilled, or I would be joyful. I've done all those things, dude. And it's just, I've lived that life, and it's so exhausting. And that's why I feel like so blessed to be able, and I know like the first 2 podcasts that I've done, the one I did by myself and the one I'm doing right now, are like super deep, but I also want this podcast to mirror the season of growth in my life that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still doing all the business stuff and the philanthropy stuff, and I'm still, you know, I'm actually a much better dad, a much better husband, much better in business, but it's not, I don't base how I feel about the dad that I am, or the husband that I am, or the business entrepreneur that I am upon like how much money I generate a month, or did I set the record for the metabolic reset launch. Like, if I do great, that is amazing. I'm so happy to do that, but I'm not hinging my happiness and the family happiness and my marriage happiness on like a dollar amount or a trophy that I want that I get or I don't get, because that's setting me up for failure. And as a lot of people heard in the first podcast, if they haven't listened to it or watched it, I encourage people to do that. It's me talking about how I was winning in life on paper, but failing in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, to the point where like I didn't care if I woke up the next morning. You know, so if you look at my life on paper, everything was perfect. I had money, cars, clothes, watches, wife, kids, everything. I actually more than I ever dreamed of having when I was 16 years old, but miserable, because everybody loved me, but I hated myself. And it's a terrible place to live. And that was really the inspiration and the push and the momentum that you helped me generate in myself, that made me feel like this podcast actually has a purpose now, and not just, hey, let's do a podcast because there's a lot of people on social media and a lot of NFL fans and a lot of fitness fans that would love to hear, you know, more about you. This podcast is not about me, and I'm like, I feel so proud to say that, because I know I'm enough, and I'm so happy with who I am. I want to be more, but I'm not hinging my happiness on anything that occurs in my life. It's always contingent on who I'm being.
Yeah.
And so that's why I knew that there was nobody else that needed to help me kind of tell my story. I'm here on this podcast to tell your story too, but also your influence on me, and then where you were, how you got to here, and where are you going now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like how everything is coming full circle, all the things in life that I thought were the most important things ever, like, you know, a 5-year contract extension, or a Super Bowl, or, you know, X amount inches arm, you know, 20-inch arms, or, you know, a certain percent body fat. Like, I did all those things, man. And I'm just, not now, but 3 months ago, I was tired, man, because I'm like, what else is there to do? Not that I've done everything, but like, I've done so many things and I don't feel any better.
Today, I can see that people so clearly without their masks on. You know,
Describe to people what masks mean.
Yeah, to me, a mask is, you know, we've seen it for, like, for example, with men is achievements. For men, it's the homes they own, the cars they drive. It's sometimes their body, even like their muscle, very muscular.
Why are you looking
muscle.
at me when you say it like
well,
that?
because you're a very muscular man.
Are you saying I have such low self-esteem, but my arms are huge?
No, but what I'm saying is...
Hey, I accept that, because you know what the sick
it's-
part is? It's the freaking truth.
Yeah,
I felt
true.
so like, I
Yeah.
don't want to say ashamed, but like so self-conscious about
Yeah.
it, that I, not only did I like improve it,
Yeah.
I like over-exaggerated it now. Like, now I don't have like arms that fit my body. Now I have like big arms.
Totally. And sometimes people use that as intimidation, you know? So those are masks. When you're utilizing something or an asset that you really work on and develop as a way to intimidate, as a way to own a space, as a way to, you know, whatever it is.
Gain attention.
Gain attention.
Gain credibility.
Look good. all of those are really masks. And when you really know, like my wife, I love my wife because, she'll do a podcast or a video cast in literally a hotel bathroom because she's just committed to doing her show, which is 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda. I love that. She doesn't do her makeup. Her hair is up in a bun. She's in her pajamas. She is raw and she is real. So that is like, she knows that her content, her contribution to the world doesn't depend on her looking a certain way. And that's really powerful. And so what it looks like for me today now, fast forward, I've been in this, we decided to bring this work in-house and really fine-tune it for leaders in the world so that we can really change the world that we live in. And so my wife and I both run this center. I'm in charge of the center of this leadership program. And
what's it called?
It's called Hardcore Leadership.
Heart, so Heart.
Yep.
CORE.
Yep.
Leadership.com.
Yep. HeartcoreLeadership.com. And we're committed to just changing the world with this process. And not just working with entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs that are heart-centered and want to have an impact in the world. Authentically want to have an impact in the world. And so what I discovered through the process, and so April 10th, I walked in and decided to walk away from the contract. And if it wasn't for this process, I would have been a slave to the contract and making money. And my focus would have been on making money as a value for who I am in the world. Versus today, I'm really honed in on, I don't care how much money I make. As a byproduct, I'll end up making much more.
Because you're chasing impact over
Yeah,
income.
because to me, it's all about, impacting your audience, influencing your audience to live really what I call the miracle that's inside them. Mm-hmm. And we all have the miracle inside us. It's about unleashing that miracle. And so, we talked about Miracle on Ice earlier. And it's like, so whether you're like this confident person, like you've got it, life is for you, and it's awesome, like this, at the time.
That's how I was on paper.
Yeah, like the Soviet Union also, right? Yeah. Soviet Union in the 1980 Olympic, they had it. It was a 4 out of 5 Olympics that they had won in ice hockey coming into it. Yeah. They had it. They were the winning team. They had the winning formula. And then there was this like amateur team, which was the U.S. at the time, at Lake Placid. This amateur team led by an amazing coach, who was very open and was looking for open people, was able to coach him to a gold medal. And so I believe there's a gold medal in every single person that in this world. Everyone's born with a purpose inside. For me, I thought I had figured it out. My purpose was to execute on life. So I had this, program I was calling Live, create a lasting dream, integrate it in your life, venture and do things differently. And the last word was execute.
So these are acronyms for a product that you created.
Yeah, Live. And so it was execute. The last acronym was execute. But I've completely changed that because it's not executing a plan.
Do you hear that right now?
Yeah, that's freedom.
So for people that are listening to this, listen to that.
It's freedom.
So we've got the door open of the War Machine right now. You guys can't see it if you're listening to this, but we're on the beach. What beach is this?
This is Doggy Beach in Solana Beach.
This is Dog Beach in Solana Beach. And we've got the door open because the AC doesn't work. And choppers keep going by because Camp Pendleton, which is where they do a lot of the military exercises, is miles from here. And the helicopters keep going by. And it actually doesn't bother me that those blade choppers are going to be on my podcast because that is the sound of freedom. So that we're going to take a small commercial break to thank all of the men and women of the armed forces. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to do it right now because this is my show. And now we're going to take it back to Ash. But if you have served or are serving, thank you so much, because when I hear a helicopter, I hear freedom. Thank you. Ash, continue.
All right. So it was execute a plan. It was like have a dream and execute a plan. And what I've discovered is it has nothing to do with executing anything. It actually has to do with enjoying it. Enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. And
so it's not about execution, it's about
it's about just enjoying it. Yeah, I think having a process is powerful, and then execute versus enjoy. And I think enjoy is the word that's really important to me today. Now, for your listeners, viewers may be different, but for me, it's enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, because this is it. We will never get this moment back, and I've had this opportunity to be sitting with you and talking about this, and I'm enjoying every moment that we've had because this is it. It's a day and a moment in my life that will be irreplaceable. I'll never relive this moment, and I want to live it.
I wanted to mention this because this happened kind of off camera, and I don't even remember if we were mic'd up or not, but we went to the electric bike rental shop. And we got there, and I kind of created like a plan, like, Ash, just give me like, we're gonna film some stuff, and then we're gonna do the podcast. So let's just budget more time than we need, but let's budget 3 hours. We got to the electric bike shop, and the owner was there, and we ended up, both of us, sitting there and talking to him. It had to be an hour.
Yeah, it was a good
45
amount of
minutes
time,
at a minimum, but probably more than an hour. We just sat there and talked to him about not just like what you're doing now or what I'm doing right now, but what we have both just recently gone through that has transformed not our life, but it transforms how we interpret our life. As every single thing that happens in our life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And really kind of the mindset shift of looking at what you view right now as obligations actually as opportunities. And the easiest way that for people listening or watching, and for me to be able to kind of really paint a really clear picture for you quickly, is you're driving to work and it's Monday and you're bummed out and you get a flat tire. People are like, man, it's definitely not an opportunity. That's an obligation. You have an obligation to get out of your car and either pick up your phone and call AAA or change the tire yourself, like I would, because I'm a real American. But you're looking at that as an obligation, like that happened to you, that didn't happen for you. But actually, if you kind of shift your mindset, and I learned a lot of this from you, and some of it was just innate from my parenting and my journey, was that's not an obligation, it's an opportunity, because it's an opportunity to show gratitude for everything in your life that's amazing. Like the fact that you're getting out of a car that you own or you lease, but regardless, you're in a car. You're not the guy next to you that's pushing a shopping cart because he lives on the street, or even the guy that's riding his bike. Regardless if it's a regular bike or an electric bike, you have a car, and it's an opportunity for you to show gratitude to that and get down there and change that freaking tire yourself. But that's like just the different things in my life and how I'm interpreting everything differently. Like my conflict resolution strength with my wife is completely different because I'm such a domineering person. Because of this process and the work that you're getting into now and you're facilitating is allowing me to view that argument with my wife as an opportunity to grow a deeper, more nurturing relationship with her, instead of quote unquote winning and getting louder and having better points and being the person that walks away from that fight feeling like I won that one. You know what I mean? Like I don't do that anymore. It's still an instinct, but I'm equipped now. Like I'm aware.
And and that's exactly, like there's no winning and losing in life. I think the game of life as defined by human beings today is like there's a win and a lose. And it doesn't have to look that way. It doesn't need to look that way, in fact. And the conversation I'm in today is that I believe, and I'm gonna make a bold statement, I believe every single marriage can work.
I believe that too.
Yeah, and I also believe that if you're starting a business or looking to start a business, if you are an athlete, if you are whoever you choose to be, it's totally possible for you. And I went through this process, and one of the things that's opened up for me over the last 2 years is that I'm really truly the writer of my life. And I heard a quote, an early on quote that I use often in my talks and conversations, and that is Steve Jobs, actually, early on in his career, as
you said that on our coaching call earlier today.
Yeah, as he was developing, Apple, one of the things he said is, we're raised in a world where, and this is not an exact quote, it's a summarization. We're raised in a world where, we're told, go to college, get a degree, get married. Get a great job before get married, get a great job, get married, save some money, and maybe plan for retirement and retire, and then travel. That's the world we're raised on. I mean, as in American society, that's the world we're raised in. Rule followers. Totally. And not to say that there isn't space for people to do rule following. That's okay. But what would change the world, and once people open up to this realization, which is what he says, once you open up your blindfolds to this realization that the world was created by people that are no different than you, Steve. No different than you, like your viewers and audience that's listening in. The world was created by people that are no different than you. In fact, they just were bold enough to keep trying, sharing their personal views, being bold to see things outside of what's already been created, and that they can actually be the ones that can change the world, influence the world, and impact the world, and that they experience. They could change how other people experience the world. And what he says in his quote is that you could literally poke life as a bubble and it pops out the other side. Like, you can totally mold and shift the life you want to create in the world and the experiences you want others to have. And the minute you realize that, your world and the world we know it will completely change forever. And so that to me was a powerful quote that I never really understood. And now I understand it deeply. And in fact, that's what I'm up to. I'm not up to this, my podcast on FedEx Talks, for example. It's about bringing revolutionary views to the table. Not like the views that modern medicine's has out there on fitness and what wellness is. Not what we know as fitness and wellness, which is like big muscles or trim bodies or six packs. Like, I lived that. I mean, I had a 6-pack and 10-pack and 12-pack, like literally just a year and a half ago. And my commitments has changed.
Married.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. I could be a victim to that conversation, or I could be really honest with you and your audience. And that is, it's just not my priority today. It's not my priority. My priority is much bigger than that. For me to live a fit life is about being with my son. I choose to be with my son at 4 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he gets home from school. I choose to hang out with him. I choose to cuddle him. I choose to hang out with him versus to go on a 2-hour bike ride. I choose to wake up right next to my son. And when he wakes up and carries his pillow in the living room, I choose to be there versus be in the gym. Now, that's not to say that that won't change. It just says that that is my priority today.
That's the season of your life that you're in.
That's where I'm at right now, and I'm okay with it. I could be beating myself up about it. I could be like having body shame issues, but I choose not to, because it's really powerful to look at it and say, you know what? I'm just choosing this way of being in my life right this moment. And it's really powerful. It's really powerful to live it that way versus be a victim. Oh my gosh, I really want to hang up with my son and I don't have the perfect body. And so I got to work out and I don't have time to work out. That's a victim conversation. That's a conversation that doesn't really say I'm powerfully choosing this. So, and I see people often come into programs, and I see entrepreneurs, because my wife has hardcore business and it's all about business owners, entrepreneurs.
His wife, if people haven't heard her name, Shanda Sumter, like, she's just as impressive as what Ash has done in corporate America. She's doing the same in really the coaching world. Business coaching world, and she works one-on-one with entrepreneurs, and she charges a lot of money to work with her, but people keep coming back and back and back and back and back, like for years and years and years, to stay with her, paying a lot of money to do it, because their business is massively benefiting from it, their life is massively benefiting from it. And she decided to do hardcore leadership because just coaching their business wasn't going to get them to the next level. They needed to make some personal growth choices in order for their business to take off, because their business wasn't being stumped or stagnant because of their business or the marketplace. It was because of the captain behind the wheel.
Totally. I mean, your life will only look as good as your personal development. If you're not willing to work on yourself and be emotionally intelligent with your choices in your life.
Something I've never done before. I've always worked on the exterior, not because I had low self-esteem, it's because my exterior and the performance of my body allowed me to gain the things I thought would make me happy, like magazine covers, or, you know what I mean? So it's just a very empty way to live. We know where you were 5 years ago. You're painting the picture for us where you're at right now, where you're making choices based upon what's going to fulfill you and something you're going to look back on and be proud of. But where is Ash a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now?
So my vision is not about me. Like, I'm not looking at where will I be, in a sense that, in terms of wealth or achievements, things like that. What my vision is that there are thousands of people that choose to live their full life and literally allow their miracles to be shown in the world. And that looks like impact and influence. So for me, it's looking at the world and saying, okay, did I create an impact today? To who? And in what direction did they go?
Hopefully millions of downloads on this podcast.
That
you know
would
what I mean?
Be,
like, that's my hope.
Yeah.
Because I could have gone and had, Odell Beckham Jr. on this show, but I don't want this to be the glitz and glamour of what my life used to be and what I thought was so important. Like, it's so much more important for me to have a podcast like this with somebody like you that has like not the breadth of the superstars and the blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the depth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The depth of conversation, because I could sit and talk with you for like hours and hours and hours, and we could forget time existed.
Sure.
And we're talking about things that are like real.
Yeah.
You know, not like the car that we want to like hit a goal and buy, because we both lived that life. You know, I did the NFL thing, you did the corporate thing. We both made a lot of money. Yeah. We both have a lot of like influential friends and blah, 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 blah. But you decided to, I want to say like jump out of the plane with no parachute, but that's essentially what you did. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I left the NFL with like no business plan, no vision. I just knew there was something out there bigger for me. And that's one of the million reasons that I feel like I'm like, you know, there's like a magnetic pull between me and you, because you make me a better person, but you also challenge me and you keep me accountable. So you're, you know, the way that he was actually able to get me to join into the hardcore leadership training was really very simple for you. Yeah. But I'll let you tell the story.
Well, you know, well, I mean, I remember we spent the day with your family.
Yeah.
And so...
Just sat around the pool.
Yeah, we sat around, we talked, we had a meal. And I was allergic to dogs, and your dogs were there. It was beautiful.
And you never mentioned that to me?
Well, you know, what's interesting is I didn't have a reaction, which was cool. So I didn't have a reaction. So, you know, and to me, that's a greater thing. You know, to me, it's God. Like, it's a sign.
God held the allergies off long enough for you to get me to commit.
Yeah, and I don't have allergies to your dogs, which is a miracle. I mean, literally, it's crazy. But it was a day with you and your wife and hanging out and just being with you. And I have to tell you, there would have been a time that I would have been thinking to myself, who am I to be here? Internally, I would be having that conversation. Like, who am I to be here with, like, Steve Weatherford? And I don't know much about football, which is great.
And I actually like that about you.
Yeah, I don't know much about football.
Because we never talk ball.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, I knew you were a kicker, and I know someone had told me, oh, Steve, wow, he's somebody. I was like, oh, yeah, to me, it's Steve.
just to clarify for everybody, because the people that listen to the show that know me, like, they're thinking to themselves, this freaking knucklehead just called him a kicker. And I'm going to correct you before they do in the comment section below. Yeah. I'm a punter.
Oh, you're a punter. Beautiful.
So if you guys still want to comment down low on Ash whether or not he really does or does not like football, he just called me a kicker. Yeah. So that's justification enough. But perfect. Continue your story.
That wasn't planned, but
the only reason I do this is because I don't want you to get completely tortured in the comment section below. Not that you guys would do that.
Yeah, if you torture me, I'm okay with it. You know,
but it's
my
funny,
value
though.
is not what other people think.
But that's one of the reasons that I love you the way that I do is like you really and authentically could care less about football. Like, you don't even know what position I played. No. And I love you for that.
Steve,
continue with your story. So you're here, you're at Steve Weatherford's house, the NFL kicker.
Someone had told me you were a punter, and I had interpreted that as a kicker. But someone had told me, Steve is the, you know, he's one of the best punters, apparently. And I said, okay, that's awesome. And so I was there, and you know, my old self would have been like intimidated or had a conversation inside my head, like, don't confront him, or, you know, I would have been a different person versus just being myself and really enjoying your family and seeing it with your family and seeing what's really important to you. And I was also able to be honest with you. You know, we were talking about one of your associates, we were talking about some people, and I was able to just, and what I'm committed to and what 5 years from now looks like, it looks like me spending more time in a space where I can say, maybe that's not the person that you're viewing, that's not performing the way you want him to perform. Maybe it has nothing to do with that.
You skipped over the part where, the part I wanted you to tell.
Which was the part?
Okay, so I'll tell, because I know Ash will never tell a story that, like, gives him any type of credit.
No, come on now. I have no problem.
So I'm going to reverse it on you and give you a little bit of coaching. You left out the best part. So essentially,
when I called you out,
you were like, you know what? Well, you're kind of like you're avoiding this. Like, is this something you want to commit to? Yeah. And I'm not like trying to say this to sound douchey. You know, I'm not. And anybody that really knows me from social media or in real life knows that I'm not. But people don't talk to me like that. Yeah. People don't like. It's very natural for people to fall into like the yes man position. Yeah. And I want to say this again. I'm not elevating myself by saying I'm a big deal and people are yes men around me. But typically, people that don't know me that well treat me like they act like a yes man to me. Like whatever my idea is, that's a great idea, Steve. Whatever I say, these seats in the War Machine are black. They're going to be like, you're right, they are, Steve, because they don't want confrontation, because they're the ones that put me on a pedestal. But you didn't do that to me.
Yeah.
And I remember standing on my stairwell and looking down at you, and I go, nobody's ever talked to me like that before.
Yeah, I remember you saying exactly the same words as I was talking to your wife.
And I'm like, I'm in, because
Yeah.
and you weren't attacking me. It wasn't a personal attack. You were just talking to me like you could see me, and you were mirroring myself to me. And people don't do that to me. And so I knew there was something very uniquely confident about you and the way you carry yourself and the way that you speak. But now to hear you tell the story of you were kind of doubting your own confidence to be who you really are in my home because of my success or whoever.
That's the thing. I didn't have that conversation.
No.
Right?
Oh, you didn't?
I would have. If you would have talked to
okay.
me 3-4 years ago, that conversation would have gone through my head.
So Ash of 3 years ago would have been intimidated.
Not intimidated. I would have been there and like, what can I get?
Second guessing yourself.
What can I get?
Okay.
You get that? And
that makes total sense to me.
Yeah,
but
because
it's not how I interpret it.
I did not create success by, my way of creating success was to look for win-win situations, but in a different way. Honed in on like, okay, what do I get in this circumstance? Like, how can I serve but yet get something? Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
How can I serve Steve yet get something out of this conversation? Because I would have been effective and efficient with my conversations versus just be effective and create a win-win. So what I was committed to coming in, knowing exactly the conversations from the past, I had a commitment, a very clear commitment and intention in mind, and that was, I'm going to see this person, I'm going to see the possibilities, I'm going to see what's available, and I'm going to ensure that he is committed because I see him. I mean, like when I met you for the first time, I was like, this guy's an awesome guy. I can see his devotion to family, how open you are, how loving you are with your family, and I still knew there was something that you were after that wasn't working on. Yeah, that wasn't working. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to see it so clearly where he's going to see it very clearly, what's available. And so I was in there completely to serve. Like I was really there to serve, like what you were up to with your business, what you were up to.
You really were.
Yeah, I was really 100% there for you. And that what's fascinating about that is, like I say, one of the things that's opened up for me is the more I give of myself to the world, and like real, authentically, without any expectations, the more the world like gives to me. The more the world works for me, the more that just things magically happen. And I think there's some people who spiritually talk about that in a sense of like this esoteric thing in the world. It's like this esoteric, like vague thing out there. But really it's a real energy. It's a real energy that works. And when you're honed in on giving, things just work. A perfect example is like 4 years ago, I started these interview series and I was getting some traction. Then like this last few months, I've changed it to FitX Talks. And these like short 10 to 15 minute talks that we do on iTunes and we have it on YouTube. What's crazy is we were getting some response from people that are experts and influencers in the world, like some scientists, things like that. We're getting some response maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But in the last year, when I've refocused and it's just about our audience and it's just about giving, it's all 100% service. I don't even have a way to monetize it. Like there's no even conversation for me to make money on it. But it's just like I love giving to people where they get a new perspective on fitness, nutrition, and mindset. They get a new perspective. My whole vision is to bring a new perspective into the world, that there are many ways to climb mountains, and you don't have to do it alone. And you don't have to. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Like there's so many ways, and I just want to open up people's minds. And so with FitX Talks, there is nothing. We don't talk about, hardcore leadership, abbreviated HCL. We don't talk about, my programs. We don't talk about any of that. We just allow an expert come. In fact, you probably will hear me once or twice. It's really honed in.
You never talk on your podcast.
I never talk.
And I feel like you're almost like cheating the listeners. And we've had this conversation because you launched about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and you've had 2 episodes come out, And I remember sending you like my feedback on the show. Like it was like 9 minutes of I love this. And then I sent you like the last 2 minutes of the feedback that I sent you were like, but nobody knows you on your show because you are like you are so in the presence of serving other people. Like people don't know, literally. I've listened to the first 2 episodes. They don't know anything about you. And I feel like you are almost cheating your listeners because you are so in service. Yeah. And there's so much like magic and inside of you and influence inside of you that I'm challenging Ash. By the time this episode comes out, I'm hopeful that Ash will do a podcast by himself and just have these conversations that we're having because, dude, you are you're the most influential person in my life right now.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's not to sound, douchey or anything, but I have a lot of people in my network that do want to help me because I've done nothing but support them for years and years and years and years, especially in like Manhattan when I was playing for the Giants. But they're not influencing me right now. They weren't able to get me through the tunnel to the other side to like really see what life is about. And you were able to facilitate that for me.
Thank you. Yeah, they will. There will be an opportunity where, I take your feedback seriously and I appreciate it. And I'm committed to having an episode that's actually like who I am and what it's about and sharing that with people. Of course, that will happen. And also I'm getting some ideas of maybe what we need to do is put content maybe once a week that's just generated by me to support our audience, because that's my commitment. And so, you're asking me what's my vision. My vision is much bigger than me, and my vision is to change the world.
How can people support that vision?
Yeah, I think the best way you can support that vision is every interaction in your life that you're honed in on giving to people that are right in front of you. Every time that you feel any kind of emotion that is like frustration or anger or that you're not good enough or whatever that emotion that is that kind of either gets you in a way of like putting someone else last or putting yourself last, because that's really what it comes down to, is to look at it as that there is an equal, and how do you get it to what is a neutral space? How do you get to a point where it's that you're passing around the love, that's inside you and what you really want in the world? So what I see often with people is either someone else has to lose or they have to lose. Whether it's an argument, because that's what an argument is. An argument means someone's going to lose.
They want this, but you want that.
Yeah. And
somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose.
And it doesn't have to look that way. It doesn't have to look that way. Most people think that it has to look that way. And I'll give you a couple examples. And we just built our beautiful home with an ocean view, and we worked, my wife and I, it was a stretch for her.
Is so epic.
Yeah, it was a stretch for us, but I love it. It's the rooftop, has incredible views. You get out of our, first level where the entrance is. It's beautiful, unobstructed ocean views, and we had it planned out. We had it planned out where there was a barbecue and a beverage station in one area. But our next door neighbor, the plans were approved. Everything is complete. Everything was approved. Our next door neighbor said, "Well, this is blocking my view to La Jolla, where I love to sit and watch my view every morning over breakfast. And that is blocking my view."
La Jolla is like a really ritzy, beautiful beach area, and he just built a house in
just north of that area. Yeah, right. Just north of Solana Beach area. And so we had an option at the time. I looked at my wife, and we both have done this work, and my first energy, which is my achiever energy, like I'm right, I have the right here, energy was like, well, too bad, we have approvals. And that's what most people do in the world. Too bad, we have the approvals, we have the rights to this space. And then I looked at it and I said, well, how can we create a win-win? How can we create a way that it supports her? This is her view. She's been living here for a long time, and what she's asking is not out of reason. It's not out of like something that we can't offer. And so what we decided to do is we decided to change our plans, and it cost us money. And we asked her if she would be willing to split the cost with us. We didn't ask her to fund it all.
Definitely could have bullied her though.
We could have bullied that. We could have bullied it. We could have actually kept it too.
Right.
But what would that cause? The cause of that would be a bad relationship with a neighbor. And the cause of that would be someone loses.
Right.
And so what we looked at is how do we make it a win-win? So we shifted everything. We had our designer there. There was a design cost. There was a construction cost. There was like piping costs, all this different costs. And we incurred it and we decided to split the bill. And what's crazy is this. You would think that we would lose, right? What's crazy is this. After we looked at it, when it was all up, I'm like, wow, we actually preserved a view that we wouldn't have preserved otherwise. It actually ended up being where we won too.
So it doesn't have to be win-lose.
No.
It can be win-win.
It was a win-win. Just because we chose to cooperate versus fight through it.
But if you wouldn't have challenged your innate achiever, like get it done, I'm right, they're wrong, you wouldn't even have taken the moment to even explore the opportunity of a win-win. Yeah,
I would have been right about it. I would have been righteous. See, we got it, and I'm right. And so it was really important, and it's great because my wife and I have both have done so much personal development now that we can see those opportunities come in front of us and we don't pass up on the opportunity. And everything that is in front of us is an opportunity if you choose to look at it and allow yourself to really see it from a space that's very neutral. Most people get really hung up on an unneutral space. Mm-hmm. Meaning they have an opinion that is driven from something else, that is driven from anger, frustration, being right, or something else. There could be many, many ways. And some people don't win because they choose not to voice their opinion. Some people just hold back. They hold back. We see people all the time that hold back. They want to be powerful. They want to be influential. They want to be impactful, yet they hold back. So there is an opportunity to really have everybody win, and it's being a stand for everybody. Being in a place where you challenge people to step up.
Right.
Whether they think they've got it all or they think they have nothing and they're not capable, is being the interruption for people.
In 90 seconds, I want you to tell people how they can support you, where they can support you, what you're going to be up to next. Mm-hmm. Because I'm looking at my watch and we have 21 minutes to ride the bikes, 18 minutes back to the store.
Got it.
Or we're going to get charged for tomorrow. Okay. And I love you, but I'm not paying an additional day of rental. They gave us the bike for free. So big shout out to Electric Bikes for doing that, Dave. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But we are going to get your bikes back on time.
We are.
Ash, I need you to give our listeners and our viewers a takeaway. Mm-hmm. And then I want you to tell them where and what they can support, because I know that you've also got an electrolyte drink, you've got a podcast, and you've got some really big things that are upcoming for you in the personal development space. And I want to make sure that we allot enough time for people to go from my podcast over to wherever it is that you can kind of help give them more information on stuff like this. As I'm going to continue to talk about it on my podcast, but like I said, the podcast is not about me. It's going to be about the next topic of the next guest that we have on here. But we'll always have an underlying issue or an underlying focus of personal development thanks to you. So I want to acknowledge you for just being a rock star of a human. I want to acknowledge you for being passionate. I want to acknowledge you for talking to me the way that you talk to me, which was probably uncomfortable for you, but it worked for me, man. It made me see you for who you really are and how powerful of a person you are that has nothing to do with what you've done, but just the person that you are. And I want to acknowledge you, and I want to tell you I am forever, and my family is forever grateful.
Thank you. You're a good friend to us as well. And all the things you just shared, I echo back. And I want to just acknowledge you for passing it forward. And so if any of you benefited from this, I just ask you that you pass this forward, you share this with others, you share this cast with others, because there's so many people in the world that get to really shift their mindset and what's available to them. How you can reach me is FitX Talks on iTunes. You could also search us on YouTube under FitX Talks and on Instagram as well.
So it's FitX Talks on Instagram also?
Yep, FitX Talks on Instagram, FitX Talks on Facebook. So you can reach us through that and you can go watch me. And you could also friend me on Facebook, Ash Ghandehari, or on FitX Talks on Facebook, which we'll be sharing videos and content as well on there.
So tell them also about, it's my favorite pre-workout, but it's actually your favorite post-workout.
Yeah.
Was it the Red Beet?
The Red Beets, yeah. So you could find Hyburst, Hyburst, at hyburst.com, or on Amazon, Hyburst, the Red Beet is the product to get. It's a product that, I mean, I spent much of my career in the beverage industry helping major organizations like Monster Beverage and a lot of others like Herbalife and other manufacturers create products. Couldn't find anyone that created anything with integrity, so I decided to, after going this work, I said I'm going to put something out there that's actually made with red beets and berries.
And it's all natural.
And it's natural. The way we dry the material is called a gentle dry process, where we don't burn off all the great ingredients in it. We use cold pressed juice as the starting point. So 70% of the nutrients of the red beets and the berries stay in the product. We have a lot of great athletes use it, but you could also use it into your day-to-day life. And it's less than 30 calories. It's a clean ingredient. There's no artificial ingredients in it. It's super, super clean.
I mean, it's good. It tastes good enough because, full disclosure, if you guys know me, then you really know that I don't care what things taste like. I don't care what food it is. Like, if I know it's going to get me to my goal, then I will incur the pain. But my kids actually like the high burst, especially the red beets. And I love it because beets are a natural vasodilator.
Yep.
And so I'm actually able to get more oxygen during my training. So I like to take it before leg day because that's my most intense training day. And it's actually allowed me to increase my workload, and I'm not losing breath in between sets as much, and I'm able to recover better because I've got better oxygen delivery system because of the integration of that. So that's a really cool product.
Yeah, it was developed because I was cycling and running a lot, so lactic acid buildup is high, so it does support the recovery much faster. And you can take it during or after workout or before workout, whatever you choose. It works.
What are the takeaways for our viewers and our listeners? What do you want them to take away from our time we spent together today?
What I want you to take away is, if you're in a rough space right now, or if you're in a space with a relationship that may not be working, or that relationship could be with your spouse, it could be with your neighbor, it could be with your friends, it could be with your family, it could also be with yourself. If you're in a relationship that's not working, you should take a deep breath and know that you matter, that it changes, it's just a moment in your life, and you have the power to completely shift that. So don't beat yourself up, don't beat other people up, love yourself, love others, and I'm telling you, it will work out. And if you don't know how, which is the common question, you ask yourself, how? Go out there and talk to someone and get support.
Yeah.
So I want to leave you with that. I want to leave you that this is an amazing world to live in, and you can have the power to create it the way you want to create it. And if you don't know how, get support, because it's not in the how. It's just in the choice. And you choosing it is what's going to change everything.
It's powerful stuff, man.
Thanks, man.
Dude, I love you, bro.
I love you too, man.
Dude, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I was able to do it with you.
Thank you.
I took my sunglasses off even though I can't see very well because I wanted you to see my eyes and feel how sincere I am when I tell you thank you, and my family thanks you, not for doing this podcast, but for showing up in life the way that you do every single day for your wife, for your son, for your employees, for your friends. There's never a time that I call you that you don't answer the phone, and it could be some stupid harebrained entrepreneurial idea I have, or I could actually need a friend to talk to, but regardless of what my need is, you're always there for me, man. You are a man of the people.
Thanks, brother.
I love you, bro.
Love you, man. Thank you.
Now let's go get back on these bikes.
Let's do it.
Because we're about to get double charged. We won't get double charged. Thank you again to Electric Bikes for letting us rent Ash's bike that he almost died in the sand with. I brought my own bike because I got big fat tires. But guys, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I hope there were some massive takeaways from this for you in your life. Again, go support Ash, go subscribe to his podcast. They're 10-minute shows, and they're really just packed with a lot of the things that we talked about today, but he's got other guests on there, and it's in the personal development space. It's a lot of very, very applicable topics. And follow him in on Instagram. So that's at FitX Talk, and FitX Talk on YouTube, FitX Talk on the podcast. So guys, thank you so much. I know there's a million places that you could be investing your most precious commodity. That is your time, but you're investing it into this. And I want you to know I'm going to do my best with this podcast moving forward to make sure that investment is going to yield a massive return in your life. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Down the field, Hollywood! 77 yards! Who is this kid?